All right. Thanks for joining, Whitney. I know we've had a long week so far. It's only the middle of the week, but we're making it through. But how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So we actually met at a like kind of fitness convention. I saw naturopathic medicine. I had no idea what that was, and I was intrigued. So just want to learn more about what that is, kind of share that and expand upon it, and also your input on recovery as it pertains to people that are already like relatively healthy and just kind of maintaining good habits and longevity as well. So the
Sure.
first question I had for you, just give me a little overview on what is naturopathic medicine and kind of shed light on it.
Okay. Yeah, so naturopathic medicine isn't something that's new. It was actually has been around long before conventional medicine model was here, prescription medications, but it's really reemerged the last couple of years, which has been awesome and really making a mark in the medical community because people are demanding it. So people are demanding safer, more natural medicine focus, prevention and just less invasive methods of healing. So it's definitely making its comeback. And naturopathic medicine really focuses on restoring and maintaining optimal health by using the body's innate ability to, or its innate self-healing processes. So our body is always trying to find this homeostasis point. And so we have these self-healing processes that when we take away the obstacles to cure and we give it what it needs, it can actually thrive optimally. So it's really the perfect combination between, cutting edge modern medicine and ancient traditional methods of healing. So when it comes to healing, we look at healing differently because we're not just focusing on your pain or your illness or your diagnosis. We're focusing on you as a whole person and asking, why do you have these symptoms? Why do you have this disease? So we're always looking to get to the root cause of it and help eliminate it that way. And
So
then
could you give like an example of a persona that might come into your office, what they might be looking to get help with?
so I mainly do sports medicine. So usually see a lot of people that have kind of chronic pain, that like knee pain or shoulder pain that they've had for quite a while. And like all of us humans, we kind of just hope that it will get better if we ignore it or we rested enough, but we never rested enough. And so we're always looking at, so sports medicine's a little differently because we're like, okay, well, what happened, right? There's usually some kind of traumatic event that causes an issue. But we also see that underlying, I would say underlying, like if you had a multiple joint pain, if you just were like, I'm getting old and achy and like, or I'm just not recovering well, that usually is a bigger picture in terms of, what your nutrition looks like, what your life looks like, what your stress looks like, how, what you eat, what you drink, what you're thinking about, who you're surrounding yourself with, like all of those things that make you a whole person is all of the things that need to address just to help, your achy joint pain. If does that give you kind of
Gotcha.
that thing? Like we're
Yeah.
not, so if someone comes in with pain, I'm obviously examining the knee pain, but I'm also seeing, okay, well, what else is contributing to this? Like what you're eating. Like if we're eating inflammatory foods, of course your body's going to be inflamed, right? And you're not going to have that good recovery. If you are really highly stressed out, then you have a lot of cortisol and that can be highly inflammatory. So that's also a contributor, right? We never have like one thing. And so it's kind of looking at the whole picture and seeing how can we, improve your sleep and improve your nutrition and, how people just drinking more water, right? Like super simple things that all are going to affect the way that you can heal and or, optimize your health in that sense. So we're never just looking at one thing. We're looking at you as a whole and the whole picture to see
Yep.
what's all the contributing factors to this one thing and how do we correct it all. It's kind of like a bottom up side. We're just doing it all for one to correct one thing. So
Right.
because all of those things affect everything you do. So
Yep. That's a holistic approach. I definitely
Yeah.
can see the value in that. And then can you explain, just to give a couple examples of foods that might be, or even anything that you eat or drink that might be inflammatory that many people might not know about? Like people are surprised, oh crap, I may eat this a lot and I didn't realize it was that inflammatory.
So mostly anytime we're looking for an anti-inflammatory diet, we're always looking to eat whole food. So anything that comes from the ground, earth, and animal, nothing packaged or processed. And so the big hitters that are inflammatory are going to be gluten, dairy, sugar, soy, corn, usually, and then also seed oils. So when you have canola oil, safflower oil, like all of these other oils, vegetable oil, anything fried at a restaurant of any kind is usually going to be an inflammatory oil. So even eating, you might be eating like a mixed nuts or like a trail mix, but they're covered and roasted in canola oil.
Mhm.
Right. So that's going to be way more inflammatory than if you were to eat them raw.
What
Different
about
things like
olive oil? Is that good or bad?
olive oil. Olive oil is good, but it doesn't have quite a very high heat point. So you want to be able to look at the different, because once it goes past a certain point, then it gets rancid and can be inflammatory.
Oh,
So I think avocado oil has the highest heat point, but you really need to look for a good avocado oil that's actually pure, cold press, organic, all the factors that we need for that. So as long as it's within the range, the heat range, then it's a healthy oil. And anything outside of that, it really can get denatured and rancid and then cause and be inflammatory.
so you mentioned dairy. So any kind of cheese, yogurt, milk, that is inflammatory.
All of it, all of it.
Interesting. I do eat
Yeah.
a lot of dairy, so I'll have to, I have to maybe think twice about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone's a little different too. Everyone, like some people can handle dairy a little differently than others. Gluten, I don't think anyone can handle. That's just, it's just super inflammatory across the board. Even if someone says like, oh, I don't notice anything. And it's like, well, if they were to actually cut it out and then reintroduce it, then most likely they could tell that it bothers them. But when it comes to those, there's so much crossover now. There's so much cross reactivity and so much GMO and pesticides sprayed on all of that type of stuff as well, that even if you're eating, a whole grain healthy bread, it's probably covered in pesticides and whatever else. So those type of things, that's all with the person. But if you're really looking to cut out inflammation, those are kind of the big hitters. Sugar, gluten, and dairy are the biggest.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And then shifting away from food, I know I got kind of off track there from the initial questions, but so in terms of actual recovery methods, do you think that it's a valid practice to try to do some type of activity to enhance recovery? And if there are, what are some examples, like maybe a top 3 or top 1 or anything like that? I know there's all kinds of, the whole recovery industry is just seemingly always expanding and saying, oh, this is the, compress your legs and all of a sudden you're going to recover twice as fast, or take an ice bath, or do this and that. But then you hear the same, from another person saying, oh, those suck, don't do that. So there's kind of differing opinions. I'm curious what your opinion is, or what you've seen in practice that works the best.
Yeah, recovery really has been, now it's like the fancier the better, right? Like what cool gadget can I have?
Right.
Really, I'm always about the basics. So my top 3 would be sleep,
Yep.
having proper rest days, and proper nutrition. So sleep is like one of those things that we just take for granted. And even those people who are like, oh, I do just fine on 5 hours sleep for the past 20 years, like, no, you have to get good sleep. You have to get REM sleep. You have to get deep sleep, because that is where our body really actually does the recovery process. And we have to get out of that sympathetic drive in our nervous system and really allow our body to rest and restore. And so sleep is probably the number 1 thing I would say. Rest days, like, I think rest days are hard because especially if you were an athlete at any point in your life and now you're in adulthood and you're, still being active and going to the gym, doing whatever, we actually feel guilty taking a day off. or or people just were kind of addicted to it, right? So we're working out 5, 6, 7 days a week and we're just always doing something. But rest days are really important, right? Because if, just like lifting weights, for example, is that if you're to build muscle, we have to break it down, right? So we're breaking it down, the body and the inflammatory response kicks in and builds our muscles back up, so we get stronger and bigger, etc. But if you're constantly breaking down while your body is constantly rebuilding, you just kind of get to this point where you're just nothing's happening, right? And you're just going to be super inflamed. You're not going to get the gains and results you want because you're not giving yourself enough time to rest. So depending on, and this is different for everyone, depending on your sport, depending on your activity, the intensity, the weight, all that stuff matters. But having true rest days, I think, is really important and often neglected. And
what do you think about napping?
I like napping. Personally, I love taking naps. But we're actually, because I actually had this conversation with one of my chiropractic friends, because I was like, oh, I just, get in this flow of like having a nap. And he takes a nap every day at his office. Like it's scheduled into his thing to take a nap like midday. And it's natural to have these like binaural rhythms for us to sleep. And so it really kind of depends on you. I think you still do need that solid like 8-hour night
window. Yeah.
But I think that anytime that you can take a 20-minute nap, I'm either like a 20-minute or like a 3-hour nap. So it's like, but it's like a strict 20 minutes, because if you get into, everything's a cycle. So if you get into a deep sleep or REM sleep, it's going to be really hard to get out of it when you wake up, right? And you feel super groggy because you jumped out of a deeper sleep. So the 20-minute cat nap is a perfect restart to the day. Nice. So that'll add to your sleep, but it's not going to replace. Sleep is one of those things we can't make up for over time. So you can't really ever catch up on sleep.
Gotcha. So it's best to just, if you're behind, just start a day one, good habit. And then do you think it's important to always go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time, that kind of thing?
100%. Yeah. Having a morning routine and having a nighttime routine is so key. And that's really key to our cortisol rhythm and our, getting our sleep wake cycle and our stress and all that stuff. So waking up and going to bed at the same time is the best way to restart that. And then also getting sunlight in your eyes within the first 20-30 minutes upon waking.
Okay.
Is really going to help jumpstart that cortisol, shunts that melatonin, and puts up your cortisol for the day. But that really helps jumpstart your sleep cycle as well. So.
Okay. All right. We were still talking about recovery methods. So I just want to hear your opinion on like heat and ice or compression or, sitting in a chamber that, it pressurizes air, any of those kind of things. What's your opinion on them?
So everything, I think, in moderation. I mean, I think that all of that stuff is made to impact somehow. I don't think anything is like one thing is not the most amazing thing.
Okay.
So I think, dabbling in them and trying them and seeing what your recovery is really important. One of the things with ice baths, because that got really popular really fast, everyone's loving the ice baths. And one thing we have to remember about both ice and heat is that ice stops blood flow and it's going to shunt blood flow away. If you're in an ice bath, it's going to shunt blood flow away from your extremities into your core. And if it happens too soon after you work out, then you're inhibiting the natural body's inflammatory response to repair and grow your muscles.
Right.
Or repair whatever thing that it is that you're working on. So if we shunt that and we shut off that inflammatory response, we're actually going to not get the results we wanted because we're not really allowing ourselves to properly recover. So the timing of that is really important. Like working out and going straight to the ice bath for 20 minutes, or I mean, I hope you're not in ice for 20 minutes, but or just putting ice on something for longer than 20 minutes is just, it can actually hurt our ability to recover. I do love, so in the naturopathic world, we talk about alternating hot and cold therapy. Mm-hmm. So the whole, hot sauna, cold plunge, hot sauna is ideal for recovery. I think in terms of really kind of flushing the body without doing the damage of too hot or too cold. So again, cold is constricting, it's shunting the blood away, all the nutrients, everything. And then heat is vasodilating. So it's going to open up your blood vessels, bring in all the good nutrients, fresh blood. And then we're going to put cold on it again, shunt all of the waste products and different things away. And so we really naturally create this pump within our body that's, trying to shunt away, the waste product, the old cells, and bring in good nutrients. And so that's what's most beneficial, I think, is not one or the other, but having both. They both have their place as well. Like immediately after injury, like heat is not always great based on the injury. So everything has its place, but I think
what would be the drawback of heat then? If you said cold alone is kind of bad because it inhibits, but what's the negative of heat?
So cold is okay. Like if you sprain your ankle and you put ice on it for 20 minutes, we'll say 20 minutes is the cap in general, maybe 15 minutes. That the whole idea of that is to like stop swelling and different things like that. So really you don't want to do alternating hot cold for like 48 hours, 72 hours after a fresh injury, if that's what you're at for. Heat again is vasodilating. So if you have the same injury, like you sprain your ankle and you put heat on it, one, it's not going to feel good, but two, you're going to be flooding that area with blood and lymph and just fluid, and it's just going to get stagnated there. So
Gotcha.
That also is not good. If we have too much stuff in one area and it's not being able to be removed, then we're not going to heal as well. So that's why the alternating hot cold really allows the new blood to come in, but prevents that from being stagnant by shunting it away. So when we alternate, we always want to end on cold because you always want to shunt everything away and allow the body to reperfuse naturally.
Yeah, it seems like whenever you ask an either or question, the answer is always both.
Yeah.
Always
And
yes.
it's all dependent. And it depends on it depends on everything in terms of like if you have a stressful job and then you're going to be, which is usually a type A person is going to go into the gym and goes to spin class and then lifts for an hour afterward, like we're just super crazy, go, and then you're going to go, all of those things are stressors, right? Working out has a threshold before it is an actual like negative stressor on your body, and then you're going to go jump into a cold plunge and you're already stressed out to the max. That cold plunge is just going to tip you over the edge and your recovery is going to be complete garbage. Right? Because we only have so much of a threshold of stress before it starts being a negative thing. And so if you have a stressful day, you have an extra stressful workout, and then you're going to go add that onto it, it's actually going to be less beneficial to your recovery, if that makes sense.
Right. I will say I'm not one to really ice much at all, even if I do have some kind of injury. But I was in Budapest one time, and there was there are like famous bathhouses there, and there was one bath that was like, I don't remember the exact temperature, but it was extremely cold, like one of the coldest tubs I've ever been in, and you had to be like completely still in order to feel like any semblance of warmth, because if you moved at all, it would kind of just aggravate really that cold. Like coldness. You'd feel how cold it was. You could almost feel a small layer of heat forming around you if you just stayed dead still. But as soon as I got out of that tub, 5 minutes later, my whole body actually felt like it was glowing and warm, because I feel like the warm air, maybe it was the fact that I was just in cold and the warm air like flushed everything back into my body. So I kind of understand what you're talking about, where everything kind of comes in, and then when you're back into a regular environment, it kind of goes back out again. Is that kind of the feeling you're describing?
Yeah, because it's going to shunt into your internal organs, right? It's going to try to keep your core body temperature so you can stay alive, basically, right? And then when we get out, your body's just reperfusing, and that it can take a couple minutes, right?
Yeah.
It depends on how vital you are, so how healthy you are, and how much you can really withstand that stressor, because it is a stressor. But I would say a good 5 minutes probably, and it just kind of feels like you can just feel your body gets all tingly, and it kind of like
it felt good.
Yeah.
I didn't feel any pain or anything in my body for like the next, I don't know, 15 minutes. I just felt like I was invincible. Yeah, exactly. Glowing. That's cool though. All right. So then I guess a good pivot to that is transitioning more into longevity. So what is like an age where you typically think you should start thinking about longevity, and what are some tips that you have for maintaining or even improving into later years after, age mid-20s or so, you know what I mean? That seems to be where people tend to kind of peak and then either maintain or slightly decline for the remainder of their their life, so
Yeah.
just curious what you think about that.
Yeah, so I actually had this same conversation with one of my other colleagues because he was like, oh, I'm trying to get, the 40 somethings into like really starting to get into the prevention. And I'm like, oh, I'm trying to get people who turn 30 because I'm like, and you and I are a little different because we've been in this pursuit pretty much our whole lives, right?
Right.
So prevention has just always been just a part of what we do. But I'm like, I'm trying to get like at least at 30, because 30, like everyone says, like, you're waking up and you definitely aren't 20 anymore, and you just don't recover as well, whatever. And everything, builds and catches up with us eventually. But I think 30 is a good age because we still have enough to recover and do damage control and be successful at all of the things, and can still, I don't know, I think we can still make way bigger jumps. But at any age and any time you're going to improve something, you're going to get great improvement. But I really think once you start turning 30 is like really time to start dialing in things. Again, it's all the bad habits that we have will compile, and then all the good habits we will,
Right.
compile as well. So as much as we can do now is always going to lead us closer and closer to the goals down the road. And so, really basic answer is just the foundations of
Right.
the basics. So everything I talk about all the time: sleep, nutrient dense food, sunshine, fresh air, moving, especially lifting. Muscle is medicine, 100%. Keeping a muscular body throughout your lifetime is going to, blood sugar, energy, just strength and preventing falls and different things like that. Muscles, everything. Staying hydrated, cold showers are a great thing. And then just having healthy human connection, which is one of the things that a lot of people are struggling with now. But just through all of our transitions through life, finding your people who are on the same page as you is always a good thing to have. So all the really simple things that are simple but difficult to do, and to do so consistently, but they really do build the foundation for everything else. So
Right.
even with all the fancy recovery things that we have, like all of that doesn't do anything if you are not vital enough, right? If you don't have those foundations for your body to handle them, right? You're just spending money at doing all these cool things, but if you're not eating well, if you're not sleeping well, if you're not drinking enough water, all of these really simple things, if you're not doing them right, then it doesn't matter how much money you spend on fancy things. So at the end of the day, all of those things are going to add up to lead us into having healthier skin, healthier body, healthier mind. So just really keeping it simple with the basics.
Yeah, I mean, that can be said for most things, to be honest. It's
Exactly.
kind of hard to instill something so simple into someone because they almost think it's too easy to
Basic.
it's too basic. But it's like,
Yeah,
well, are you doing it consistently? No.
exactly.
Okay, well, let's start doing it consistently and see what happens, So it's
Right.
yeah, it's definitely a tough barrier to cross just from a coaching perspective. Same thing for you with
Yeah,
patients.
100%. Yeah, it is. And it is because they're simple. We take them for granted. But when you really get them dialed in and do them consistently, that is what moves the knot. Like that is what makes the biggest change across the board. Like even with some of the fancier things that I do in office, like joint injections and regenerative medicine, like none of that's going to work unless everything else is dialed in. And half the time when you get everything else dialed in, you don't really always need that.
Yeah.
because we've controlled the pain and we've done all of these other things, that we don't always have to do those type of things. So I mean, it's just, they are difficult. And I think everyone, like, I can't sit here and say that I'm an expert on it and that I do 100% every day, but I work really hard every day to make sure that those are on my priority list. So
Right.
it's always a process, and we're always learning and we're always changing, and life is always going to go up and down in all the directions. So we just, those, as long as we can keep those consistent, then we're always going to have greater outcomes no matter what it is across the board. So
I got you. Yeah. You have a
yeah,
very friendly cat. What what
I
kind of
know
breed?
he's
What kind of
just
cat
like
breed?
needing so much attention right now.
Yeah,
His name is Quest. He is a Bengal, so he's like spotted like leopard.
that's cool. Like a leopard.
Yeah, yeah, he's being
Cool.
very needy right now, of course, and
What
like
is?
throwing everything off my desk.
Yeah, he's going to town right there. What is your current fitness routine looking like?
I would say, right, like I said, like, we're not 100% all the time. I'm kind of in a transition of moving. I'm in the transition of finding a new gym. And so it's really more of doing everything I can at home right now. So I make sure I try really hard to get 10,000 steps in every day, which
Okay.
here in Arizona is difficult because it's hot.
Yeah.
And fortunately, like right now it's raining.
Yeah.
So, but making sure I'm just getting in movement. You know, I meet my girlfriend for yoga once a week. I lift weights at home. I have tons and tons of different workouts, mostly working on strength right now. I'm not a big cardio queen, although it's, you know, it's important, you know, based on cardiovascular health and like different things like that. But you know, muscle and being stronger is kind of my goal right now. So mostly working out at home these days and making sure we're getting steps in, because you know, sitting is the new smoking. So
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's different types of chairs out there too. I have a kneeling chair that I've played around with. Um, can't attest to it being any kind of world beater, but
yeah,
it's like something I've tried out, you know.
yeah, I've seen those.
I probably have to
Yeah,
get
or
more of a
standing desk or a
standing
treadmill.
desk. I think presents its own problems because you're still, I think the ideal setting would actually be like in Japan, they have everything's kind of floor based. I think that would
Mm-hmm.
be the most natural way that a person could sit is on the floor, but most people can't even sit on the floor comfortably. You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
agree. Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's a big part of our initiative is to get comfortable on the floor, get your hips open, and get your you should be comfortable sitting on your heels, for example. Like it shouldn't be painful at the knee or the ankle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're dead straight, vertical up, straight up and down torso. So it's a very comfortable position to sit in for a while, except for your legs. They tend to
Right.
like fall asleep or maybe even feel painful from being so tight. But sitting just gives you like all 90-degree angles. There's no stretching involved, and it's a very lax.
And it's
Yeah,
hunched, one's
yeah.
hunched over. So we have a lot of like turning in
Tension in the neck,
shoulders, super tight hips. Yeah.
the
Text
back.
neck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. We all talk about it, but the better thing to do instead of try to reinvent the chair since it's not going anywhere is to just do things to combat it, if that
Counteract.
makes sense. There's no
Hi.
better. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of what I wanted to cover today, based on recovery, longevity. Appreciate you kind of sharing your opinion from the medical
Yeah.
side too. And it's interesting, even though you have so much more advanced methods that you could have mentioned, you still stuck to just being healthy in the first place, preventative. I think if that were more pushed in the beginning, people wouldn't have as high medical bills or wouldn't even need to go to the doctor as often, or a lot of things could be prevented just from maintaining a healthy lifestyle from the start, because we're built correctly to begin with,
Yeah.
so
100%. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's a tough thing that, you know, what the fitness industry has done and what the health industry has done, right? So it's always just like, how do I empower my patients to take control of their health, right? Like that's my main goal as a doctor, is to teach. and it's to teach you all the things that are contributing to your health or your pain, and teach you how to do the opposite of them, right? And how to do better and restore that. So that really is important, and really teaching people to do that, and I know that you guys do that too, is so that people feel empowered and can take control of their own health and move forward and move into the world with confidence, knowing that they are in control.
Yep.
And so dialing in those basics, those are the things you're in control of every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not following around and like following you with a spoon and or knocking cookies out of your hand, right? Like those are your decisions to make every day. And so that's my whole goal, is how do we teach people and educate them enough that they can walk into the world and be able to navigate it on their own.
Right.
And so my goal is that you never have to see me as a doctor.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
I want to teach you all the things that you need to know. And if you dial in the basics, like injuries happen, right? That comes with the territory. And especially when you're, pushing the limits and trying new things. But those things are easier to be fixed on a healthy, vital body. And when they are taken care of acutely, it's when we wait years and, keep creating all these compensations because we didn't go get anything fixed, but we keep doing all of our activities on top of that. So, but yeah, so the whole goal is to not see a doctor and to stay as healthy as possible. So.
Yeah, it's funny to hear you saying that. Don't come see me.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that I can help you as much as possible, get you out of pain, get you on the right track. Come see me, when you need to acutely for things. Like things always come up, but if I don't want to see you every day for the rest of your life, or once a week for the rest of your life,
Yep.
Like
exactly.
I have some really cool things that I can do in the office, but all of that is really setting you up, pushing you into the world to start the healing process. But all that daily stuff, that matters way more.
Right. Yeah.
So
I mean, it's the same thing with a training session, I can get you in here to train, but it's like, unless you're doing everything else outside of that, it's only one window. But yeah,
right.
so we get the gist of it. Follow the basics, sleep, eat whole foods, low inflammation diet, and you're off to a great start from there. Probably 80% of your 90% of your results will just come from that. So I like it.
Oh, yeah, sleep and food, that'll do it.
Yep. So where can people find you, social media or even location wise? Just what can you plug about yourself?
So I have an office in North Scottsdale and one in Tempe. But you can find all my information, all of my handles, all my social media is Dr. Whitney Donahue, ND. And then everything links up to my website, to more information. And I'm most active on Instagram, so you can find me there. Okay. And yeah.
All right. I will put that in the description of whatever post this happens to find its way to, so people can easily find that. But appreciate your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night with your kitten. He needs some attention. So
Thank you.
sounds good.
Thanks for chatting.
Of course.